Okay, folks, now we're going to cover percent basics from section 8.1 in the book. This is a personal finance section. This is a really, really useful section for everyday life. There's a lot of cool insights in here. Annuities, things about income tax, credit cards, home ownership, how different investments work. There's a lot of cool stuff in here, so I hope you enjoy this. But we're going to first off, before we even introduce all that stuff, obviously, we're going to start by talking about percents, doing a little bit of a review of percents. So first of all, we have a couple different ways we can look at numbers. One of them is we can look at something as a fraction. Okay, that's a way we can look at something. We can look at something as a decimal. And then we can look at something as a percent. These are all related, and we can kind of go back and forth between these, okay? So for example, 1/2 is a very simple fraction. As a decimal, we know that that's 0.5. As a percent, that's 50%. Okay? How do we get from one to the other? Well, to get from the fraction to the decimal, okay, let's do this in different colors here. To get the fraction from the decimal, we take 1 and divide it by 2. And we stick a couple of zeros there, a couple of zeros. Bring the decimal point up. 2 goes into 10 5 times, and I get a 0 remainder. So that's why it's 0.5. So the way we go from fraction to decimal is we divide the numerator by the denominator. Okay? And remember, I talked about last class, the way you figure out which one goes outside, think of how fractions make you down and out. So the one that's down, this is up. The number that's down goes outside the division bar. Okay? And then, how do we get from here to here? How do we get from here to here? Well, to change a decimal to a percent, we move, whoops, I better use a different color than that. To get from decimal to percent, we move the decimal point 2 places to the right. Okay, so that would be 1, 2. I need to add a 0 to hold that place. That's how I get the 50%. So obviously, if I wanted to go backwards, right, from here to there, I'd have to, if I had a percent, I want to move it to decimal, I've got to move the decimal point 2 places to the left because I'm now going backwards. Okay, so let's look at some examples here and work with this. So let's do 3/8 and write that as a decimal and then a percent. So to do the decimal part, we would take 3 and 8. You can do this on your calculator, by the way. The way you do this on the TI calculator is you just, on your calculator, literally do 3 divided by 8 on your calculator and hit enter. But we're going to do it the long way. Okay. And we're going to bring the decimal points, bring the decimal point straight up right there. Put the 0 in front just to hold that place. 8 goes into 30 how many times? Twice. Sorry, my bad. 3 times. That's 24. Subtract 6, 0. And 8 goes into 60 how many times? Well, that'd be 7 times. That'd be 56. Subtract 4, bring down another 0. 8 goes into 45 times, and it goes in evenly, so I have a 0 remainder. So this is 0.375 as a decimal. Okay. Then, to make it a percent, I want to shift the decimal point 2 to the right, which would be 37.5%. Okay, so that's how we express it. Now, I could also give you something like, I could just give you a straight decimal, like 0.0493. And I say write that as a percent. Well, you just move the decimal point 2 to the right, and you get 4.93%. Okay. Now, what if I give you a 36.2%, and I say write this as a decimal? Well, to write that as a decimal, I'm going to move it now 2 to the left because we're going backwards. So that'd be 0.362 as a decimal. And you drop the percent symbol because now you're representing it as a decimal. Of course, I can get a bit harder now and do something like 0.01%. In order to, that's a percent right now, so I want to get it into decimal, so I would take this and move it 2 to the left. So I'm going to have to add a 0 in there. That'd be 0.0001, because I have to actually add a 0 right in there to hold that place so my decimal can go there. Okay, so that's how we change fractions to decimals. That's how we change decimals to percents. That's how we change percents to decimals. Okay, so now we're just going to talk about basic stuff like sales tax. It's just basic stuff. Okay, so the amount of sales tax that you're going to pay on something is the percent times the base. Okay, so this P is the percent, this B is the base cost, and this is the sales tax amount. Okay, so for example, if I go to a store and I buy an item for $38.99, okay, and the sales tax in Michigan 6.5% sales tax. To find the amount of sales tax I'm going to pay, so the sales tax is going to be 6.5%, but whenever I enter it in an equation, I have to put it in its decimal form. So I've got to move it 2 to the left to get in its decimal form. So that'd be 0.065 times $38.99. This equals, if I round to the nearest dollars and cents, $2.53 of tax. So my total cost for the item is $38.99 plus that. So that's $41.52. So that's what it's going to actually, they're going to actually charge me at the cash register. But if they ask me for the sales tax, that would be the sales tax. If they ask me for the the total cost of the item, then I would say this is my total item cost. Okay? So that's pretty easy. So if I have markup, so let's talk about discounts and markups. A discount we could also call a percent decrease. We're going to decrease the cost of something. And we could call a markup a percent increase, same idea. So percent increase and percent decrease. Okay, so let's take an example. Whoops. Stores that are going out of business oftentimes will do things like say everything is 38% off. I'm making up a random percent. Okay. What? So you want a kayak listed at $6.95. Okay? So let's figure out what your discount amount is. So first of all, the discount amount would just be $695 times 0.38, because remember, whenever we stick a percent into a problem, we've got to move the decimal point, which is currently right here, over 2. Okay? So what does that come out to? 695, I'm getting my calculator out. 695 times 0.38 equals 265.24. So it's a pretty big discount. All right. And then what's the sale price? Well, to get the sale price, we're going to take 695 and we're going to subtract off the discount. And let's see what I get when I put that in the calculator. I get 429.76. So depending on what they ask you, whether they ask you the discount amount or the sales price, you can calculate either. They might ask you this or that, depending upon the problem. Okay? So this is how, in general, we find percent increase or decrease. Okay, now let's talk about percent sentences. Okay, and these are in your homework. And they use this idea. So the big idea, I'm going to help you to we're going to give you some translation cues, and once we do these and do a couple problems, you'll understand what I mean by this. This is going to be a bit vague right now. Is translates to an equal sign, and of translates to a times sign. Let's take an example. Oh, my bad. And one more thing. What or find translates to the variable, a variable x. That's our unknown. Okay, so let's take an example. What is 38% of 96? So just translate it using this translation key right here. Okay, so let's do this. So what translates to an x, is translates to an equals. 38%, remember I said whenever we put the percent in an equation, we should write it in its decimal form. Of means times, and then 96. So x equals 0.38 times 96. So this is already solved for x. All I got to do is multiply 0.38 times 96. My calculator, and I get x equals 36.48. So I solved that one. That's easy. These do get harder. Let's take another example. 29 is what percent of 137? Let's translate. 29. Whoops. 29 is equals what percent is my question mark. That's my x, my unknown. Of is times 137. Now, looks like to get x by itself, I got to divide both sides by 137. In the last problem, x was already by itself, wasn't it? So x is equal to 29 over, I don't know why I wrote a 139 when it's 137. So let's do this on the calculator. 29 divided by 137 is, so x equals 0.21168. I rounded there. Okay, that's not my answer, and the reason is they asked for what percent. And remember, whenever we're dealing with the equation, that percent is actually in decimal form. So I have to change this to a percent now. So it's a decimal, has to be changed to a percent. So I move the decimal place 2 to the right to change from decimal to percent, which gives me 21.168%. And you just round it to however many places they tell you to round it to. So you just really got to get these translation cues I have up here at the top. Okay. So let's try another one of those. Um, 16 is 78% of what? Okay, so let's do this. 16 is means equal. 78% we write as 0.78 of is times what is the unknown. So all I do to get x is divide both sides by 0.78. Plug 16 divided by 0.78 into my calculator. And I get that x, and we're going to round, so I put a squiggly equal. I should have done that in the last one, I just didn't think of it. And I get 20.51. I don't have to change this to a percent or anything because I'm not looking for the percent. The percent is already given me. I'm actually just looking for a number. And so this is my rounded number to 2 decimal places. Okay, let's try another problem. Okay, here's a problem from the book. We're going to do number 54, just to get used to the percent increase and decrease types of problems. So this is a chart that says the average earning by college major in thousands of dollars. And so you can see social workers don't make a lot. Engineers make about double what a social worker does almost. So look at number 54. Find the percent increase for the average yearly earnings from students majoring in philosophy to students majoring in accounting. Okay, so we want to find out a student in philosophy or accounting an accounting student makes about 63K, right? And the philosophy major, which I was a philosophy major, that was my first degree, and before I went back for math, so I don't agree with this number because I never made that much money. 43K. Okay, so we want to find the percent increase. Well, to find the percent increase, I got to find the difference between these two and divide it by the smaller of the original, because we're increasing from philosophy to accounting. So I would want to take the difference and divide it by the base, which is the lower of the two in this case, because I'm increasing from the lowest to the highest. And so that is 20 over 43. So this is 20 over 43, which if I do 20 divided by 43 on my calculator, I get 0.4651. That's decimal. To get that into a percent, I have to shift that 2 and get 46.51%. So that's my percent increase from philosophy to accounting. Okay, so in general, these are in general for percent increase when you're dealing with the raw numbers. It's the new value, or sorry, my bad, the higher value minus the lower value, whoops, if we're doing an increase, divided by the lower. Okay, and then percent decrease is higher well, let's not do that right now. Let's skip that. My bad. Since we're doing this problem, we'll just do that for now. Okay, now let's take a look at number 56. The fax machine regularly sells for $380. The sale price is $265. Find the percent decrease. Okay, so for percent decrease, I'm going to give you the general formula. Now, I was just setting it up, but I was just going to, that equals higher minus lower over the higher value, because that's where we're starting from. We're starting at the higher and going to the lower. With the percent increase, we're starting with the lower and going to the higher. That's why we divide by the lower in the first one. So this is 380 minus 266 over 380. Okay, 380 minus 266 divided by 380. And I get 0.3, which, moving that over 2 decimal places, gives me 30%. Okay? And so I'm gonna erase this for a second and take a screenshot here and show you something. So to review, percent increase or percent decrease when you're dealing with the raw numbers is you find in both cases you're dividing by whatever the original amount is. Okay? And then you just find the amount of the increase and the amount of decrease and divide it by the original amount. So that's what we were just doing in those last two examples. So you should be ready for the homework in 8-1.